Superman has had its opening box office weekend, and let's face it, it's just kind of...
Meh.
It's kind of meh. So it opened to $220 million. That number is a little bit disputed right now. So $220 million, $125 million domestically, $95 million overseas. And there was some arguments being made that the reason it opened so small overseas is because of Superman's uber American persona, which doesn't fall in line with this movie, given the fact that this movie could be considered globalist slop. It doesn't reference much to America, but it does talk a lot about innate human values and things like this.
The Hollywood Reporter said. Its somewhat tepid start internationally isn't a surprise, considering the original creators of the hero cast him as an uber-American patriot and savior, a patina that has never entirely worn off. Don't forget that Zack Snyder's 2013 film was titled Man of Steel, not Superman. So they're saying that Man of Steel was more successful overseas because of the title?
Could be. Man of Steel did open under this film. Granted, 2013 numbers are much, much less than they are now with inflation. I saw other people having a debate over the weekend. They were calling adjusted for inflation COPE.
No, that's math.
It's reality.
It's math.
Man of Steel opened to $116 million in 2013 money. So opening to $125 million in 2025 money just doesn't ring the same. Here's the thing. So the studio set their sights low. They wanted a $100 million opening, but the websites like Box Office Pro and Box Office Theory were predicting anywhere from 115 to 130 million. And this movie fell like firmly in between there with 125 million. Some were saying 122 million, so that number fluctuated by a couple of million. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll say it's 125 million. I texted Valiant Renegade because I didn't want to do my homework. I said, what do you think this movie's going to end up at when it's all said and done? He said 600 million on the low end, 750 million on the high end. By the way, you should go subscribe to Valiant Renegade's YouTube channel. He does great work over there. They talked about this a lot yesterday. But that's not really the question here. So it opens to $200 million. Last week, Jurassic World opened to $300 and some million. Granted, over a 5-day weekend. So since 2022, this is the second biggest comic book opening next to Deadpool and Wolverine. But $220 million is very different than the $445 million that Deadpool and Wolverine opened to, and much less even than Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which opened to $331 million, and Doctor Strange, which opened to $452 million. So the question is, we have some comments here from David Zaslav. We've got some comments from Jeff Goldstein, who is he's the head of distribution over at Warner Brothers, who basically said, like, this movie was designed to win back the faith in the franchise from the audience that they've kind of degraded over the last 10 years. And I loved this movie. I loved it a lot. I did 21 minutes talking about this movie directly. But do I believe that $221 million, $125 million, so about what they expected, is that going to inspire a bunch of confidence from audience goers? Well, if you were on the internet over the weekend, this movie was unbelievably divisive. I think on Criticlist it ended up at it got the decent rating, like right there in the middle, and people seem really eager to tell you that you're wrong on either side. Like, if you hated this movie, there's a bunch of people coming out to tell you why you're wrong. If you love this movie, there's also a bunch of people coming out to tell you why you're wrong. And to be fair, there were some criticisms of the movie that I caught later that I didn't address really in my review, but that's kind of the point, right? Is like a criticism that matters a lot to a person to mention it means that it bothered them more than like the characterization of his parent, of Jor-El and Laura, like his mom and his dad, his Kryptonian parents, not Mom, Pa Kent, was valid, but it just didn't resonate with me. I didn't care, and maybe I should have, but I am not a fanatic for Superman lore. But if you think about it, if I was to give this thing the positive spin, Batman Begins opened much less profitably than, say, The Dark Knight did. I think like $560 some million. Like, it didn't light the world on fire when they brought Batman back after the failures of Batman Forever and then Batman and Robin, the Joel Schumacher Batmans. But the thing is like, do you really think that in like getting exactly what you're expecting is going to inspire confidence? The second weekend box office will be much more apt to let people know what that is. Because over the weekend, Jurassic World made $40 million, which was like a 57% drop. And even F1 made like $13 million, which was like a 50% drop. If they can keep this movie in like the 50% drop range, that is far more indicative of where this movie will go box office wise. If this thing creeps into the 60s as far as drop from week 1 to week 2, it's in deep trouble. And $600 million on the low end, like Valiant Renegade said, when Man of Steel opened and made that much money, does that really mean, I mean, that means that it's opening about the same as the Snyder Bros did, and those movies didn't exactly light the world on fire. It opened to $166 million for Batman vs. Superman, but that had Batman in it, and then fell off a cliff in week 2.
Well, I was under the impression, based on James Gunn's comments, that it's not a big deal if the movie makes money.
It's his job to kind of keep people at ease.
He's now responded to the reception on the opening weekend for Superman on Threads, because James Gunn uses Threads.
That was the most annoying part about it. It wasn't his comment, it was that he made it on Threads.
He said, "I'm incredibly grateful for your enthusiasm and kind words over the past few days. We've had a lot of super in Superman over the years, and I'm happy to have made a movie that focuses on the man part of the equation. A kind person, always looking out for those in need. That resonates so powerfully with so many people across the world is in itself a hopeful testament to the kindness and quality of human beings. Thank you."
That's as neutral as it can be. And is in the comments from Maxwell Lord in the movie about how conservatives and liberals can all hate Lex Luthor.
This is just me, I know, but something about the message of the movie being about kindness just turns me off. And I think that for the vast majority of men, actually, that message is a turnoff.
I don't think so. I don't think so these days. I think that, look, in the age we live in now, the big point that I was making was like, everybody I think is kind of sick of the moral ambiguity of these types of movies nowadays. So one of the things I loved about it is there was no shades of gray.
Well, okay.
There wasn't no explanation
That's
as to
fine.
why the villain is actually misunderstood. He's just kind of evil and megalomaniacal.
But in James Gunn's own interpretation, he believes that it is actually morally gray, because he was discussing the back and forth between Superman's perspective and Lois Lane's perspective, and how the audience can kind of come away with their own perspective on violence and mercy and justice and the balance between the two. So he seems to think that it's a moral quandary in the movie, not that it's black and white, as you said.
The other problem for this movie is that it cost $225 million to make and another $100 million to market. So you need to make more than $600 million. Like, if you're saying that this movie can make $600 million on that budget, you're coping hard.
No, it doesn't matter.
And it's apparently not going to matter.
It's not a big deal.
Look, there was also questions people are having about his characterization around Supergirl, and a lot of people didn't like her lines at the end of the movie.
She called Superman a bitch, right?
I mean, she looks like she's
I heard
playing
that.
like,
I don't know.
She's playing like party girl Supergirl, which I think is kind of funny, but it's not necessarily going to ring uber true to a lot of people. And you need to start building on this to more. And I don't know if a $600 million opening inspires a lot of confidence for people in the future. David Zaslav had things to say. Again, all of these comments have to be positive, because David Zaslav's not going to be like, you know what? We were hoping for $200 million.
This was David Zaslav. 3 years ago, I hired James Gunn and Peter Safran to reimagine and unify the creative direction of DC under one leadership team by breathing new life and excitement into one of the most iconic storytelling franchises in the world. James and Peter's commitment to honoring the legacy of the DC universe while forging something new and enthralling is inspired. I remember my first meeting with James Gunn 3 years ago. He spoke about growing up in Missouri and how the characters of the DC universe weren't just stories to him. They were like his family. His personal bond with these DC heroes was powerful, and I knew that then James was the right person to bring them to life. His love for the DC world runs deep, and it shines in every frame of his work. This weekend, we watched Superman soar as James Gunn's passion and vision came to life on the big screen. Superman is just the first step. Over the next year alone, DC Studios will introduce the films Supergirl and Clayface in theaters and the series Lanterns on HBO Max, all part of a bold 10-year plan. The DC vision is clear, the momentum is real, and I couldn't be more excited for what's ahead.
Hot take, but I would like no vision. I want to just make individual good movies and then like let the chips fall where they may. I think people in general are sick of these types of connected universes because they no longer feel connected in any real planned way anymore. Marvel is a crapshoot. Every post-credit scene ends up not mattering for anything in future films.
Was there a post-credit scene in this?
There was two, and
Two?
There was two, right? And but the thing
Did
is,
you stay for both?
No, I watch them later. But like the point being, was there one or two? The point being that like there was the cameo from Peacemaker in there and stuff like that, which was like got the biggest reaction out of everyone in the audience. But in general,
did everyone clap?
Everyone did clap. Okay, they didn't clap. They
Great.
laughed. They laughed at what he was saying.
Did they clap at the beginning of the movie?
What do you mean?
Before the movie proved itself, did they clap?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just wondering.
No, the movie got some laughs out of people. But I think the movie needed to make more money than what it made for its opening weekend. Odin from OMB Reviews does point out that it opened under The Batman, which opened to $134 million domestic. So, it's... maybe you could say that that's on the strength of Batman as a character just being the more relevant and more famous character now, given the fact that people don't think of Superman the way that they did 20, 30 years ago in the Donner era. But in general, I would have liked to have seen this thing open more. And I think that the poor overseas showing is going to be what ends up harming it. Like if the domestic audience is only going to come out for average numbers, that needs to be made up for in the overseas number. It opened fourth in China. Like it opened under Jurassic World Rebirth, which was #1 again in China this weekend.
That's not entirely surprising.
Is it Scarlett Johansson? Like,
Dinosaurs.
they love dinosaurs?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.